how do you take a 90-year-old manufacturing company and convert them into a leading software company? That's the topic we'll be covering today. I'm your host, Jeff Hootselle with Tech Talk. Today we've got Niel Nickolaisen with OC Tanner. Niel, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So Niel, talk about that a little bit. So a company that's been around for 93 years, first of all, congratulations for making it close to a century. That's no small accomplishment in itself. But then to shift from being a manufacturing company into a software organization, that's no small feat. So tell me a little about that journey, a little bit about OC Tanner.
Sure. So OC Tanner's been in the employee recognition business, like you said, for 93 years with a focus on the manufacture of the custom award. We have large and small and medium-sized, very loyal, dedicated clients who liked that experience of the custom award. But the market started to change on the company a few years ago, and the market preferred or wanted to add to that manufactured experience a software experience. And we saw the trends in the marketplace and recognized we needed to make a change. And so part of the approach was protecting what we had, what was good, what worked for our clients, but then asking ourselves, how do we supplement that? And in some places, make at least as important the software experience. And so the approach we took was to really look at, like I said, what we had from a company perspective, from a business model perspective, then ask ourselves, what role can or should software play? Then we looked at our technology assets and the portfolio and the environment we had and did a pretty radical gap analysis. What needs to change, not only in the short term, but to future-proof us? Because a lot of the legacy systems we had were designed around the delivery of the manufactured product and weren't very adaptable, weren't very changeable, weren't very agile. So we also wanted to say, let's re-architect everything. So we took a platform approach and said, one of the mega trends is we live in an environment of platforms. So we just said, these are our rules. We're going to define a microservices-based architecture. We're going to have a lot of internal integrations inside the platform, and then we're going to integrate with anything else that comes our way. And so we just opened it up, and then we just kind of surgically and systematically started redoing everything. Opportunistically, meaning whenever we enhanced anything we enhanced it in a way that fit with the new architecture and approach. When anything broke, and things broke quite often, we would fix them in a way that fit, and then we did new development. So the company ramped up the investment in IT. We built the teams, we built the approach, and we've, I think, sort of delivered at this point.
It sounds like, I know your journey to this role as CIO has been kind of an interesting one. And we spoke before, and you kind of joked, your biggest skill sets to get into this, where you're irritating and obnoxious. Those are the two key things that get you into your role.
That's right.
Talk about what that means. I think some people might be curious about that.
Sure. So I didn't start my career in IT. I had taken one computer programming course in college, but that was a long time ago, and it was the pure language, Fortran. I had kind of evolved into a process improvement, supply chain optimization, lean manufacturing person, and I was the VP of operations for a consumer packaged goods company. But the main thing I did every day was complain about the status and condition of their IT services. And one day, just a heated dispute, performance of IT, the way it worked out, the CEO that ended that conversation by telling me to shut up and take over IT. And so that's what I did about 20 years ago, and that's what I've been doing ever since.
Well, and I've heard you talk before as well. I mean, the role of the CIO has changed quite a bit, right? So if you look back, even just a handful of years, if you were the CIO, your main role was, I'm going to manage the infrastructure, I'm going to manage some applications, I'm kind of the technology leader of the space. But in your perspective, that's different now, correct?
It is. I think if I reflect back on my experience with enterprise IT, the role, the position that enterprise IT really grew to support with technology, business decisions, organizational decisions, and strategy. So the business defined its needs, and we developed technology to support those needs. And I think really the truth of using the buzzword digital transformation is that role has now reversed. Because of advances in technology, IT defines the opportunities that the organization can pursue. And so our role has shifted both as CIOs and also as IT organizations from a support role to a leadership, influence, consult, and guide, more of a direction setting role, which requires a different skill set. We have to be more influential. We have to be more business people who know technology rather than technologists. And we really need to refine and hone our ability to understand the future and prepare the organization for it, both from a product perspective and also operationally.
Yeah, I think, and we see that a lot from other CIOs we've chatted with and talked to on the show, of just the pace of technology is so fast right now, and there's so many different new and emerging areas of technology for a CIO or an IT leader to be the expert in all of those different fields is just, it's not logical, right? So there's
Right.
no way to do it, even if it was your full-time job, to keep up and really have a lot of expertise. So how do you approach that from a day-to-day perspective of just having all these different disciplines and areas of technology that you have to integrate into your plan, but you don't have necessarily expertise either yourself or in-house?
Well, one thing I think that's important is that everything we do, we design for replaceability, so that if anything new comes along, we can add it quickly and without a lot of pain. Coming from lean manufacturing, I used to think the primary goal of any process or tool was reusability. Now I think it's been replaced by replaceability. It matters that we're able to switch things out quickly. Secondly, I think you've got to build a good network of other IT leaders that you trust, that are also going through the same experience and are trying things that you're not, so you can learn from them without having to do that learning on your own. And I think ultimately you've really got to trust your team to also be the eyes and ears in the marketplace and be out there not only for themselves, but network with their networks to find out what are the opportunities. And in addition, I think there's a role that just research plays, keeping your ear to the ground, and then finding trusted vendors, suppliers. They're going to do some of that work too. One of the things we've done, I think really that's helped us a lot, is we've formed some relationships with some venture capital firms, and we have, at least annually, we meet with them and just they tell us the decisions they're making in terms of investments. Because I figure if they're doing early stage investments in a certain category, that's a category we'll probably have to deal with or want to do in 2 to 3 years. And that way we kind of get a sense of what's coming that otherwise might blindside us.
Oh, it's really interesting. So Neil, I know we're about out of time, but I want to ask you, as far as OC Tanner, employee culture and those things are so important right now, especially when we can't necessarily be in a physical office together. Being able to recognize employees, encourage them, and kind of let them know that you appreciate them is such a big thing. So what's next from OC Tanner? How are you guys helping to kind of further that?
Well, I think our experience has been internally that you really have to make the time, find the time, and make a priority to touch people on an individual basis, which also means you need to know the right way to touch them in their work life. And I think anything that improves our knowledge of what our employees are going through. So for us, it's adding things like some improved analytics and also some software functionality that focuses on what we would call micro experiences. What are the day-to-day or weekly things we can do to improve a relationship? We've got a product that we use to help leaders and managers and supervisors conduct one-on-ones. And I think those are critical because that's how you really find out how a person's doing or how a person's feeling. And so make the time, if you need to, use a tool like ours so that you can do those in a consistent, trackable way, and also pull that data over time to see what the trends are, not just with your team, but with the individuals on your team.
That's great. Neil, so many awesome insights. We always appreciate having you on the show and joining us. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, and thank you guys for joining us as well. If you guys want to check out more interviews like Neil's, you can visit auditmax.com and look at our whole library of interviews, or you can also listen to our podcast and all your favorite places where you find those. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.